Welcome to the Natupreneur Podcast with your host, Tammy. Today I wanted to explore that moment that we all have, that moment of what on earth am I going to do if I am not that, then what am I? And I think it's an interesting space to be in, and it facilitates major change in so many people's lives, and it definitely did in mine. It's also how I got into full-time business mentoring, and it is a moment that we have in the highs and the lows of being an entrepreneur, and I wanted to share it with you guys to see where you guys are at in the roller coaster that is entrepreneurship and running your own business. There is going to be the highs of, the wins of helping people and the wins of being able to sit in a space and create something amazing that is going to help somebody and be able to get paid for that. And then there's going to be the lows where you're not quite sure of yourself and your confidence gets blown and you question what you're doing and you aren't being paid. Maybe something goes wrong, you get sick, unwell, a landlord changes something. In those moments, getting out of those moments is where the gold is and the growth is. And I think in business, it is one of the biggest personal journeys, personal growth journeys as well as business growth journeys that you could have in your life, is running a business. So my most recent growth journey found me standing on a cliff, wondering what it would feel like to jump. So I'll take you back to the middle of 2016, and I was in a wonderful space. I had been creating Inspirational Health, the most amazing practice with the most incredible staff. I'd seen nearly 7,000 clients personally. I'd helped so many people, their families, their workplaces, and it was an absolute gift and honor to be there. But I'd also burnt out multiple times running my practice. Always wanted to strive to do better, and in the striving, I would fill in the gaps where I could look after myself or eat lunch with new clients, and I would really love that feeling of helping people until I had to take some time out and a month off in Bali and then come back refreshed and ready to go again, and then I'd do it again over another year. And what I noticed in that cycle was that there were things that I had learnt doing that I didn't need to be doing anymore. And I noticed that the striving and the pushing was actually where I needed to rein some things in. One of the other things I noticed was the mentoring that I was doing on the side for both students and other practitioners alike was just so easy. There was so much ease and flow there, whereas seeing clients was a strive and a drive and a push. So when I came to terms with what I actually really wanted to do, in that I knew it was my time, I'd seen the people that I wanted to see, and I knew my time with Inspirational Health was changing, I decided I would sell the practice. And a sale of practice sounds, in theory, like an amazing idea. And in practice, it's a wonderful and exciting journey into numbers and details and things that honestly aren't in my flow or my zone of genius. And when I was selling my practice, I had to go into conversations with lawyers and accountants and bookkeepers. I had to talk spreadsheets. I had to talk numbers. I had to sign 36-page documents in multiple different places on each page. And it really felt out of my flow. So I'd had quite a number of these types of meetings, and I was still seeing a full client load of 40 clients a week. I was still looking after my 3 kids. My husband was away for work. We've got a blended family, so it's a constant journey with that as well. And it got to a point where, because of all of these wonderful details that I had to look after, I'd forgotten something that I thought was a little bit minor, that was my car insurance, my car registration. When I realised it was actually a day overdue. So it was a day past its rego date. And so I got my mechanic, and he came to the back of our clinic, and he went in and did what needed to be done, had to take it to get it registered. He got the blue slip, the pink slip, the green slip, all that stuff. And then I had to get online and just get the insurance done. And I got online, and it just wouldn't go through. And I thought, oh, okay, this is a bit odd. I've used this system before. It should be fine. I tried a different card in between clients. No, it still didn't work. After the clients had gone home, I tried my phone to do it. I tried every possible combination. I thought, oh, maybe I'm just not looking at it right. I've had so much going on. I'll just drive home, and I'll get it done tonight before I come to work tomorrow. And I got home. Husband's away. Kids to look after, and it didn't get done. So I got up in the morning, and I got really ready and early, and I got in there and, okay, pumped all the numbers in. It wouldn't take it. Okay, I'll do it on a different computer. No, different credit card. No. Oh my goodness, this is just infuriating. I don't know what to do about this. More details, more numbers. Okay, maybe it's just not meant to be. I'll drive straight to the RTA as soon as I drop the kids off. All three of our kids go to 3 different schools at this stage, so I dropped our first one off to her high school. And straight ahead of me, I saw a highway patrol vehicle. I thought, oh, I'll miss that one. I'll turn right here. And as I turned right, another highway patrol vehicle drives the opposite direction. It should be checking on everybody on the other side of the street. But sure enough, the sirens go on. It does a U-turn over the nature strip and pulls me over with my kids in the car. And the female officer that came out says to me, "Hello, ma'am. Do you know why you got pulled over this morning?" I said, "Yeah, I do. I didn't get my registration through. I've been trying all last night and tonight and this morning. I can show you on the phone." She said, "So you knowingly left the house in an unregistered vehicle with your children in the car?" Now, it wasn't like my car was unroadworthy, it was just unregistered. But in that moment, the heaviness of her words, the weight of what she was saying, and what I made that mean was that I was failing as a mum. What that brought up for me was failing as a business owner, because I couldn't keep a hold of all of these different balls I was juggling. What I made that mean was that I was failing as a naturopath, because I was failing at everything, was what I made that mean. And in that moment, it took all my absolute strength to hold it together, to call my mother-in-law to pick up my kids and take them to school. After the kids got out of the car, I drove to a really close, just off side street in a relatively dodgy area, and just bawled my head off. I couldn't stop crying. I was sobbing. It was like heaving crying. And I thought to myself, my goodness, I'm just going to have to get this out. And I kept crying and crying and crying, and bizarrely, the crying wouldn't stop. Now, this hasn't happened to me ever before, where the crying just doesn't stop. And I thought to myself, my goodness, why is the crying not stopping? This doesn't happen to me. And I got on my phone to my husband and I said, this isn't working. What's going on? You know, I've just been pulled over. And in actual fact, that policewoman had given me a $687 fine. And that $687 fine was yet another number that I had to think about over all the other numbers that I'd had to think about that past fortnight to sell my practice. And all I could think about was this $687, which I, at that point in time, paying for lawyers, accountants, bookkeeping, all that kind of stuff. What you don't know about selling a practice is you don't get that money for another couple of weeks. And in that moment, $687 seemed like Mount Everest to me. And my tears wouldn't stop. And on the phone, My husband punched in the numbers, the same numbers I'd put in the night before and that morning, and we had the car registered in a moment. Well, that didn't help my crying, really, did it? So I got out of the car, tried to take some deep breaths, and that wouldn't work. I got back in the car and thought, maybe it's the area, maybe it's the energy of this area. So I drove to the nearest beach. I thought, maybe the beach, some fresh air, that'll do it. I got to the beach and got out of the car, and the wind was up, and I was still crying, and I thought, okay, maybe I need that feeling that you get just closer to this little cliff face. And I stood right on the edge of the cliff and felt all of that air come up into my lungs. And I breathed in, and I breathed out, and I still was crying. And the tears kept rolling, and I wasn't quite sure what else to do. And then I looked down at the edge of the cliff, and I thought, $687. This pain in my chest, I can't stand this feeling. I'm a failure. And in those moments, all I could think about was just imagine with my curious mind, I wonder what it would be like if this pain was to stop if I jumped. I wonder if it would stop like halfway down because I'd be enraptured by the jump, or if it would take all the way to the bottom for this pain to stop. And if it stopped, what that would feel like after all this pain was gone. And 98% of me was really, really curious. And then 2% of my brain went, hold on a second, if you were to do a mental health assessment on you right now as your own client, I don't think that would turn out too well. And I quickly took 2 steps back, stepped away from the cliff, and I had a moment and I thought, what would I tell my clients in this moment? Oh, I know what I would tell them. I'd tell them to call a friend, phone a friend. So I phoned one of my old coaches. She wasn't there. I phoned another friend. She wasn't there. I even phoned my mum, and she didn't answer the phone. And then I had a moment and I thought, hold on a second. This has happened to me before, particularly with my coaches. In these moments, what happens is I need to figure out something for myself, and the next time I speak to these people, I can share with them the wisdom that I've gained from it. Okay, that's right. That's what I need to do. Okay. And so I stepped back couple of steps further. And then one of my coaches texted back, and she texted back and said, I'm at the school assembly. Are you okay? And I looked at those 3 little words, are you okay? And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm bawling my head off, and it's not stopping. I'm standing on the edge of a cliff. I'm not okay. I'm not the not okay person. This is not okay for me to be not okay. I'm never the not okay person. I'm the most okay person I know. How can I be the not okay person? And I made it so not okay to be okay. And that didn't help the crying. So sobbing, heaving, crying. And as I sat down back on the park bench behind me, I had a little thought in my mind that said, but what if it was okay to be not okay? It was, years and years of personal development just pops into your brain all of a sudden, and just those random things. And I went, oh, well, if it's okay to be not okay, then I could be okay with that. So we went down to a normal dribble in the crying situation. It still was consistent, but it wasn't the heaving crying that I had. And then I had a little bit of a clarity of thought. I was looking for answers. I was a bit curious about what was going on around me. And I thought, hold on a second. Maybe I could just check in with my body. Where do I feel not okay? Oh, I feel not okay in my chest, and I felt the heaving, and I felt the heaviness, and I felt it for what it was, and I felt the darkness, and I felt the sensations, and I thought, I wonder what it would take to shift this. And a man in a wheelchair rolled up the cliff face next to me. Rolled upwards, ahead of me. And I had this moment of, why is he rolling up the hill? Like, of all the places for him to be, this is a really tall, high cliff. It's, it's a bit of a struggle for me sometimes. How is he rolling up the hill? And I looked at my feet. And in that moment, I had that thought about, okay, Dr. Seuss quote just popped into my mind. I've got feet in my shoes and I can go wherever I choose. And all of a sudden I went, I've still got my feet. I've still got my legs. I've still got my gifts and my talents. I've still got every experience that I have learnt from being a mother, from being a business owner, from being a naturopath. I still have all of this. And I'm sitting here worrying about $687. I could make that in the blink of an eye. And 50% of what I was feeling shifted, and the sobbing stopped. There was still tears, but it really had shifted. And I checked in with my body again. I thought, oh my goodness, where do I still feel this? And I felt it in my gut. That heaviness, that pit sometimes. Kind of like acidic. And I thought, oh no, it hasn't moved. Oh dear. And then I started crying again. I thought, okay, what would it take for this to shift? It's not as bad as what it was before, but what would it take for this to shift? And no word of a lie, a blind guy with a cane and a seeing eye dog walked up behind the guy in a wheelchair. And I thought, okay, I get it. You can stop sending me whoever you are, universe. I get it. I get it. And I slowly watched the guy walking up the hill. And I honed in on the seeing eye dog. And he had a little jacket on. And the jacket, in big, bold letters, said, I need space, please. Nonetheless, my tummy relaxed, my breathing relaxed, my crying dissipated, and I had a moment of absolute freedom that, in actual fact, I just need space. I had concertinaed an entire series of events that I wouldn't have gone through in a year into 2 weeks. Bang, 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 bang. And then all of a sudden, all I needed was the space. And I don't downplay what depression feels like for others. But in this situational depression and this moment of darkness that I had, it turned around so quickly by being curious. It turned around so quickly by looking for the clues. I often talk about looking for the breadcrumbs and following the little breadcrumb to the next breadcrumb to the next breadcrumb, because eventually there's going to be a gingerbread house. And if I can go from essentially wanting to jump off a cliff to being completely at ease and getting the answers that I needed in a space of 90 minutes, to then go on and see 8 clients that day and finish up a week later to sell my award-winning practice, and then only a few weeks after that to find my next big vision, my next big goal of circumnavigating the globe in a helicopter in 2022, to reinvigorate my love of aviation, to do that and shift that is an absolute, oh my goodness, you can do that too. It's an incredible thing. It doesn't have to be the way that we make things mean. It doesn't have to be the stuckness that we choose to feel sometimes. And it can turn around that quickly. After that, and I reinvigorated my love of aviation, I noticed and I started to see, after that really dark time, I started to see the light. I started to see the light in the people that I was mentoring. And then I turned that into my dream, my absolute creation of my life. And being able to take naturopaths, nutritionists, herbalists away, help them with their businesses to the point of being award-winning practices, having amazing teams, being able to show up in their lives in ways that they haven't before, and then take them away to retreats and places in Bali. It just, whilst flying helicopters during the week, I feel so in alignment now and so in flow. And if you are in one of those moments, if you have had those moments in business where you're just stuck and you're just not sure, if you've been crying in a heap and you've looked on Seek for another job, if you're a practitioner who has taken on board only so much that it gets to the point that you do realize you're in burnout, take the space. Go to the dark because the light's on the other side. And then, being human, there's dark and then there's light again. And there's a breakdown and a breakthrough. But follow the breadcrumbs. Get really curious. And it'll take you on an entirely different journey. And you can turn it around so much quicker than you ever imagine. I want to invite you to the idea that you can have the life that you dream, and that you can create whatever you choose. And if you take those moments to really be with what is and be okay with not being okay, then there is okayness on the other side. I am your host, Tammy Guest, and I will catch you for a conversation to consider next week on the Natupreneur Podcast.